On this slide, we're focusing on CVE 2024-6746, a critical path traversal vulnerability found in NaiboWang EasySpider version 0.6.2. Our primary objective is to provide an overview of this specific vulnerability, understand its potential impacts, and explore how it can be exploited. Path traversal vulnerabilities like CVE 2024-6746 can allow attackers to access unauthorized paths on the server, which makes awareness of this issue essential for maintaining the security of your systems. Understanding this vulnerability will enable you to better protect against malicious exploitation, ensuring that your systems remain secure and intact.
Let's dive into the vulnerability overview for CVE 2024-6746 affecting NaiboWang EasySpider version 0.6.2 on Windows. The vulnerability is found within the HTTP GET request handler in the server.js component. Specifically, this is a path traversal weakness. Path traversal vulnerabilities occur when an application does not adequately sanitize user input, allowing attackers to navigate through the file system beyond the intended directories. In this case, an attacker can manipulate the input to the HTTP GET request, introducing sequences like doc/// windows win.ini to access unauthorized files such as the win.ini file in the Windows directory. This exploitation effectively bypasses directory restrictions, leading to potential exposure of sensitive files and a higher risk of further compromises. Understanding this mechanism is key to mitigating such vulnerabilities and maintaining secure systems. Path traversal explained. A path traversal vulnerability occurs when the input provided by users is not properly sanitized. This oversight allows attackers to navigate directories and access files outside the web root. Essentially, it exploits the directory structure logic of the operating system. The impact of such a vulnerability can be significant. Attackers may gain access to sensitive files, including configuration files and system files, which can in turn lead to further exploitation of the targeted system. This exposes data that was supposed to be protected and can compromise the integrity of the entire system. As Bruce Schneier wisely said, security is not a product, but a process. This highlights the importance of continuous vigilance and proper input validation to safeguard against such vulnerabilities. On this slide, we delve into the technical details of how a path traversal vulnerability impacts the file EasySpider resources app server.js. This type of vulnerability can be exploited through a maliciously crafted HTTP GET request. An example of such a request is shown here. get//windowswin.ini http 1.1 host vulnerable host. This specific request attempts to access the win.ini file located in the Windows directory, far outside the intended web root directory. The severity of this vulnerability is highlighted by the CVSS scores provided. According to CVSS v3.1, this vulnerability scores an 8.8, categorizing it as high severity. In contrast, CVSS v2.0 rates it as a 3.3, which is considered low severity by that metric. These scores help us understand the critical need to address path traversal vulnerabilities due to their potential to expose sensitive system files and configurations. Let's consider a real-world scenario that illustrates how an internal network attacker could exploit a vulnerability to retrieve sensitive information. Here, the attacker sends a specially crafted HTTP GET request to the server, gets Windows win.ini http1 host vulnerable-host. This exploit takes advantage of a path traversal vulnerability, which allows unauthorized access to the Windows configuration file, win.ini. The outcome is the disclosure of system configuration information, which could potentially be used to further compromise the system. To prevent such vulnerabilities, it's crucial to implement proper input validation and output encoding. By validating input, you ensure that the data being processed is safe and expected. Output encoding helps in mitigating vulnerabilities by converting potentially harmful characters into a safe format before they are rendered to the user. Both these practices are essential to protect your applications from similar attacks and to maintain the integrity and security of your systems.
On this slide, we're going to focus on the tools and commands you can use to identify and test for potential path traversal vulnerabilities in your network. For network scanning, you can use nmap. An example command is nmap-p 80443 open 192.168.1.24. This command will scan the specified IP range on ports 80 and 443, looking for open HTTP services, which could be vulnerable to attacks such as path traversal. Next, Burp Suite is an excellent tool for further testing. The steps include 1. Proxy setup. Ensure your web traffic is routed through Burp Suite to capture and modify requests. 2. Craft HTTP requests with traversal payloads. Specifically test for path traversal vulnerabilities by manipulating request parameters to include traversal sequences like ./small. Using these tools, you can proactively detect vulnerabilities and take steps to secure your systems. Mitigation strategies are crucial when it comes to safeguarding web applications against path traversal vulnerabilities. Here are some preventative measures to implement. Firstly, input validation is essential. By restricting input to expected patterns, you ensure that only permissible data passes through. Second, sanitization helps by removing dangerous characters, such as from user input. This prevents attackers from exploiting traversal sequences. Third, access controls are critical. Limiting file system access based on the principle of least privilege reduces the risk potential. Ensure users have only the permissions they absolutely need. Let's look at an example of how you can implement these measures in Node.js. Using the path module, you can normalize and sanitize user inputs. For instance, you can use JavaScript const path require path. Const sanitized path equals path.normalize user input. Replace / this code normalizes the user input and removes any traversal sequences, making sure the path is safe to use. By incorporating these strategies, you can significantly minimize the chances of a path traversal attack on your systems. Now let's discuss the remediation steps. When a vulnerability is discovered, effective remediation involves 3 key actions. 1. Monitoring. It's essential to keep an eye on updates from trusted sources, such as NaiboWang in this case. Regularly checking for advisories or updates can mean the difference between a minor issue and a major breach. 2. Patching. If patches are released, apply them as soon as possible. Staying up to date with patching helps ensure that known vulnerabilities are addressed promptly. 3. Firewall rules. Implementing firewall rules can filter out suspicious patterns in URLs. By setting up these rules, you can provide an additional layer of protection against potential exploits targeting the vulnerability. By diligently following these remediation steps, you can significantly reduce the risks associated with vulnerabilities and enhance the overall security posture of your system.
For those looking to delve deeper into the details of CVE 2024-6746 and understand its impact on systems, this slide provides valuable resources. The official CVE details can be accessed through the NVD database under CVE 2024-6746. This will give you a comprehensive overview of the vulnerabilities, including their severity and potential exploits. Additionally, the GitHub Issue Tracker, labeled as GitHub Issue 466, offers practical insights and contributions from the community on addressing this particular CVE. You can find discussions, potential fixes, and ongoing developments related to the issue. Lastly, for a broader context, security articles from Recorded Future provide detailed analysis and reports. These articles can help you grasp the broader implications of this vulnerability and stay updated on any emerging threats and mitigation strategies. Remember, staying informed through these references not only aids in immediate remediation, but also enhances your overall understanding and responsiveness to security threats. In this conclusion slide, we wrap up our discussion on CVE 2024-6746. It's critical to understand both the severity of this vulnerability and how it can be exploited. To protect your systems, implement any necessary mitigations outlined in the course. Moving forward, ensure that you regularly update and patch any vulnerable software in your environment. Additionally, continue your learning by keeping up to date with resources and articles on recent vulnerabilities. Thank you. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like and comment below with your thoughts or any questions you have. Your feedback helps us improve. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with our latest courses and content. And if you found this information valuable, share it with your friends and colleagues so they can benefit too.